Well, it looks like an Eagles insider thinks that another cornerback is in the mix for the Philadelphia Eagles because cornerback 2 is not finalized yet. And I kind of feel that way as well. We're going to be talking about that. And we're going to be talking about ESPN pretty much saying that the Eagles are aiming at two players. And if that's not the case, things are going to change really quick. And we're going to be talking about that as well. So, yeah, let's get straight into it all.
A killer buried, but not dead.
Darren, we better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what is going on? I got a horror on a fantastic day today. This video is sponsored by BetUS, so definitely go check them out if you guys have not. So we have a couple things to discuss today. Nothing crazy, because we're less than 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. We're ready to go. We know the Eagles are ready to go. Howie Roseman's about to pull off some really good things, and really get more young talent in the building because everything is basing off of this draft. We are putting everything into this draft, and that's what we have to realize going forward. Okay. Now, Reuben Frank had some things to say the other day about another cornerback being in the mix for the Philadelphia Eagles because a lot seem to be saying that this corner 2 spot is not finalized yet. Fangio isn't just pointing his finger and saying, we're just putting that in the competition. We signed a Dory Jackson, and pretty much that's done. Saying that Eli Ricks could be in the mix to, maybe start. Okay. Eli Ricks obviously not drafted and really having to build himself back up, not giving up a touchdown as a cornerback in Alabama and really, kind of starting over again. And, I thought we saw some really good things from a lot of these guys when, remember a few years ago when Avonte Maddox got hurt, Zach McPherson had a season-ending injury, and they really had to fill in that inside corner spot. Thank God you have Cooper DeJean now, but that's why that position was not great for a long time. I thought Eli Ricks as a man-to-man corner plays really well. I just don't know if he's much of a zone guy or really fits in what Vic Fangio is doing, but showed us some really good things against Tyreek Hill. The few couple games that he was in, when he gets more of an opportunity, he really shows out, and I really do like him. They signed a Dory Jackson, so that gives you it gives you a player that could come in and play if you really need him to. He could play on the outside, he could play inside, so it's gonna be one of those up in the air type positions because Reuben Frank says losing Slay and Maddox and some of these other guys, the Eagles took too much of a big hit at this cornerback spot. Sure, they could have signed Slay for another year for 10 million guaranteed or a $10 million contract for a 1-year contract this year if they really want to do that. But it seemed like they really wanted to move on and get younger at the position, which they have been doing. They drafted Quinyon Mitchell last year, Cooper DeJean. So if Eli Ricks is in that mix, there's nothing more than I want. I want a young player to win this job. Keely Ringo needs a more opportunity, needs more reps. Eli Ricks needs more reps. Sidney Brown at safety needs more reps. Guys that are trying to get starting spots right now, it seems like there will be these big competitions going on, especially at those two positions. But we're talking about cornerback now. Now, remember Adam Schefter did talk about that the Eagles might trade for a veteran player. And remember, I saw that Jair Alexander has not been let go, hasn't been released yet from the Green Bay Packers, and this could be an option for them. Is it my favorite option? Definitely not. You sign one veteran, they could trade for another one just to kind of have some stability at that position. And Jair Alexander in a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles, if this is the veteran type trade that they want to make, where they can give up maybe a pick, nothing crazy right now, then maybe this would be the direction that they could go. And I'm not the biggest fan of that. Like I said, I am believing in the new era in Philadelphia where we're just trying to play young players, and you want to make sure that these guys, Vic Fangio has an eye for talent. Like if he feels like Keely Ringo is not going to do much, he's going to add more players to this spot. And of course, they're going to add more corners throughout camp. They're going to have more bodies. Just because you want a lot of bodies during training camp and things like that. You always have that. So there's nothing different about that. But I'm just wondering if like they signed a Dory Jackson, they were pretty much like, okay, we're done. There's a competition right there. That's what we're gonna wait for. I wonder if they're gonna add more to the mix if they feel like Eli Ricks is, has more value and maybe another offseason under his belt and could really help this team out. I guess we'll find out when the time comes. Or they might trade for a veteran here that could come in and play immediately. And if you sign a Jair Alexander and you already have a Dory Jackson, you got Keely Ringo. I mean, I think you're pretty much set at that point if you have a mix like that. But right now, I'm not really on this boat of trading for him, and I would let the young guys kind of play out. And I think Keely Ringo needs to get a big opportunity here, and I think he's earned it. To be honest with you, not earned the starting spot, but has earned to. I want to see what he could do. And that's why you have this program in the offseason, and we'll see what happens with that. So, I'm not really knowing so much that I'm kind of like set at this cornerback 2 spot. You need depth at inside corner as well, because a lot of these corners on the roster right now can't play on the inside. So I think that's going to be interesting going forward. Now, ESPN, okay, they put out an article the other day that the Eagles will be sitting in the first round for 2 players, okay? James Pierce Jr. and Walter Nolan, okay? If Walter Nolan gets drafted, okay, well, you're going to have to move up for both of these guys. I highly doubt you're going to be sitting there at 32, sitting happy, like, don't got to do it, don't got to do much, don't got to do anything. You have 4 fifth-round picks in this draft, okay? It's Walter Nolan, it's James Pierce Jr., and they feel as if these two aren't in reach for the Eagles, then they might switch an entire position, and that's where I think safety is going to come into the mix. Or it could be tight end, because they've looked at a lot of second-day safeties, a lot of them, okay, that might actually move down to that second day. So I think of it like this. They get James Pierce Jr., it's going to be great. Walter Nolan, if they draft Walter Nolan, I think Jordan Davis, I think his days are going to be numbered in Philadelphia. I think he could play an option year, because Jordan Davis has that 5th-year option, so potentially they could keep Jordan Davis here an extra year. But if Walter Nolan's in the building, and I've talked about this a million times, I think Jordan Davis is not going to be here for too long, okay? And on top of everything else, Jalen Carter has to get paid, okay? Jalen Carter's got to get paid. Moro Jomo goes into his contract year next year, okay? You have a cycle now at DT where guys are going to have to get paid, and you have to look at some of these contracts down the road. What are the expiring contracts? It's literally never ending every single year at defensive tackle. So that's why I feel like defensive tackle is still on the board for the Philadelphia Eagles 100%, because you can't just look at this year and have this tunnel vision as an Eagles fan that's just 25 and that's it. No, we're talking about years to come. And nobody wants to pay Pat. DTs are going to get paid a lot of money. Edge rushers like James Pierce Jr., a lot of edge rushers are going to be gone. So the Eagles might have James Pierce Jr. on their radar right now, but you can't move up 10 plus spots. I mean, maybe 5 to 6, maybe that, but 10 plus, I just don't see it happening. Pass rushers are probably going to go from late teens to early 20s, and these guys are getting paid. These edge rushers are getting paid 30 plus, 40 plus $1 million now. You know what I mean? The market is gonna get bigger for these guys. Nobody wants to pay edge rushers right now. So go into this draft and go get one. There are a lot of them. But if you want to get one of the best, since you're not going to get Abdul Carter, you go get James Pierce Jr., but how high are you supposed to trade up? So the Eagles waiting on 2 of them to see where they're going to be and feel like where they could trade up. That's where it's really going to matter. And if they don't draft a Walter Nolan, he gets drafted, or James Pierce Jr. is off the board way too early, then they could be waiting to switch positions, or they could be going after another edge and Izaraku or somebody else, or or waiting second day if they feel like they're feeling the rumors that someone is going to drop to the second day. And some of these guys won't be on the radar for that second day is going to be a very valuable day, I think, for a lot of positions for the Eagles. So that's where ESPN is really aiming at what the Eagles are going to do in this draft, where they have their top 2 guys and realistically where they're sitting. Okay. And potentially because of some of the draft picks they have next year, they have 12 draft picks. Obviously, can't get, they can't trade any comp picks next year, but they could trade a conditional pick next year they got from the Hassan Reddick trade, which is the 3rd-round pick. Like I said, 4 5th-round picks this year. So they have some ammo. I mean, realistically, it's, if they could hit on 3 guys in this draft, three guys or more would be great. 3 at least, that'd be great to have every year. So we'll see how this goes, but I think it's going to be like I said. I think what they have interest now is on the defensive line, and if they're not in reach, and it's just too much for them to move up, and teams are not trying to pinch a trade for them, I think they'll switch positions. I think they might go safety, they might go tight end if somebody falls. Like, it really depends on who falls that you really can't pass up on. And if someone is like in the 20-something range, early 20s, I think the Eagles have to try to be a little aggressive and try to make that make that trade up if they possibly can. So I think it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be a crazy buildup going from 1 to 32 and see who's coming see who's coming off the board and seeing what happens. So very excited for that. But other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. So we're still waiting on a lot more things, and more rumors are going to start to pop out once we're getting closer to the draft. Let me know what you guys think about Walter Nolan and James Pierce Jr. being the top 2 picks for the Eagles. The top 2 really big names that are going to the Eagles right now. And do you think they get close? Do you think they're able to trade up and try to get that done? And what do you think about Eli Ricks being in the mix at cornerback right now? And what do you think about, just in general at cornerback too? Are you comfortable? Are you kind of like, I'm not really feeling it right now. Let's just wait it out. Or is it just going to come down to opportunity? And I think that's what it's going to come down to, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to aggressively go out and get somebody. But who knows? They could draft another DB in the mid rounds. They'll draft another player because they need depth, obviously. But we'll see what happens. Things do take time. And we'll see what's going on. But other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys on the next one. Shakes what up, follow slide. Peace out, guys. Peace.